Okay, hello everybody. Just want to give you all a warm welcome. Let's just take another minute or so, and then we'll get this started. I just wanted to quickly point out we do have a small questionnaire on the bottom left. That would be great if you can fill that out, where you can win your Amazon gift card. So please take a minute to do that, and then we'll start after that.
Sounds good.
Exciting.
Yeah, what a morning. Excited to get this show on the road.
You have to keep it exciting, Fredrik.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have some excitement. When there's technical difficulties and people aren't able to join until this very last second, I think that's how you should start. So you get like amped up before the webinar because you're stressed. Yeah. So you just like how it's going to work and start thinking about all the different solutions. But now we're all here. We're excited to talk about this for the next like almost an hour, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's a good segue as well. Like if we talk around onboarding and getting somewhere and you want it all to work and people have the best experience ever. So whenever you struggle to enter a webinar, that it's not the best experience, so you feel a bit stressed. So, well, we're talking here today with Fredrik and Johanna more about the experience strategy from recruitment and onboarding and beyond that as well to help boost your employee retention. Well, as many experienced growing companies for skilled employees notice, it's important to ensure that engagement and that well-being, and it's not a must, but it's not a choice as well. We need to have that, and it's really important that there's a flexible HRIS tools in your organization to help that come to play as well. So my name is Ramon Geertjens. I'm a sales engineer here at HiBob, and I'll be delighted here to host today's session with my two panelists, Fredrik Mellander, Head of Partnerships at Teamtailor, and Johanna Gustafsson, People Generalist of GetAccept. They will introduce themselves in a bit as well, but just a few quick pointers of what we're going to discuss during this webinar that I want to take you through. So we're going to talk a bit about the new way and plan to attract, nurture, and hire your top talent, around how you can use data-driven and measurable onboardings. We talk a bit about programs that drive your employment engagement throughout their whole life cycle. And that's the few big topics we want to discuss. So maybe, Fredrik, you want to quickly introduce yourself a bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you already know my name because you've been so nicely introduced by Ramon, but I'm Fredrik Mellander. I've been at Teamtailor for almost 5 years, so 5 years beginning of next year. Started off in doing a lot of sales, have a sales background and done some marketing in the past as well. And started doing partnerships at Teamtailor a couple of years ago and have been responsible for the go-to-market strategy and how we work with partnerships globally and how we make sure that Teamtailor combines with the best other solutions to be able to make sure that the entire digitalization process is seamless with Teamtailor.
Perfect. Well, maybe Johanna, you're next.
Yeah, of course. Yes, my name is Johanna. I work as a People Generalist at GetAccept. I joined GetAccept during March last year, so the first wave of pandemic. Started working remotely. Been a part of this journey since then. We are in a big growth stage, so we're all about recruiting and onboarding and engaging our employees in a hybrid environment. So I'm excited to speak more about this during this webinar.
Yeah,
perfect.
Looking forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you so much for introducing. And do you also want to do a quick introduction for Teamtailor and GetAccept? Maybe talk a bit more about that. Maybe Johanna, you want to talk a bit more about GetAccept and what you guys do at GetAccept as well?
Yes. So basically, we were founded in 2015. We have Swedish founders, but we started out in the US. Today, we have our headquarters here in Malmö, but we also have offices in Stockholm, Norway, Denmark, France, and the US. So today we are 170 happy GetAccepters, and we have more than 3,000 customers worldwide. So basically we help companies close more deals by offering an all-in-one sales engagement platform for the best digital remote selling experience. So GetAccept is a digital sales room where sellers and buyers can interact in a virtual space throughout the sales cycle in an engaging and personal way. And as we all know, sales and recruitment are very much alike. So we also help companies recruit more talents by bringing fun and engaging interactions throughout the recruitment process and nurture engagement also throughout the employee lifecycle. So that is what we are all about.
Thank you so much for that, Johanna. And maybe, Fredrik, you want to talk a bit more around Teamtailor as well as a whole?
Sure. Yeah, so Teamtailor in general, long story short, is we're a full service talent acquisition suite. So everything from how do you attract and reach more people to actually get them to apply for your roles, to applicant tracking software or recruitment CRM in the back end, so you can manage and collaborate with your team members in an efficient way. The goal with Teamtailor was always to be like the bridge between companies and candidates. So how do we make sure that companies as efficiently as possible market themselves towards their potential candidates, make sure that they reach their potential candidates, make the application processes easy, and also streamline and automate the entire workflow, and really add the marketing angle and the sales angle to recruitment instead of just waiting for people to apply for a job, actually start working a bit more proactively. We're currently 210 people, also a quite global company. We have the headquarters here in Stockholm where I'm sitting, but we also have offices in 10 different locations in Stockholm, Sweden. It's the biggest one, but we also have in London, Paris, Berlin, Madrid, the US, in Austin, and a few other locations around the world, and work with roughly 5,300 clients around the world, anything from small to medium to large companies, and anything in between.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Fredrik. And maybe before I continue and talk a bit about Bob, do know you can ask any questions in the question box as well, which we'll take on at the end of this webinar. So a bit about Bob. Bob is a modern and forward-thinking people management system, and it's a system of engagement. So Bob is designed with social media in mind, having a place where people often come and they know how to use and they enjoy fun while browsing through that. So Bob is designed with that in mind for modern, mid-sized and multinational businesses. And it's there to scale your HR processes and develop people and connect your teams to help your businesses and employees grow even faster and stronger, no matter where they are at in the world. And then if we look at where Bob is at, so Bob has a range of different clients in different segments, and Bob is itself about 1,400 customers over more than 100 countries with more than 100,000 employees all around the world, and helping them to truly drive and support employee happiness by delivering that exceptional employee experience. So let's dive in without any further ado to the questions we have for today's topic. So if we're talking about the fiercely competitive market and talent acquisition and the onboarding challenges that come with that, I'm curious to know what are the biggest talent and acquisition onboarding challenges that you see there, Fredrik?
Yeah, I think right now it's a very special scenario. I think over the last 2 decades, so much has changed when it comes to recruiting and onboarding, and the expectations of the candidates and the expectations of the market in general. But we've also seen that right now, I think we have more jobs posted and a larger shortage of people that fill roles than ever. So just trying to make sure you can actually streamline that process. And we see a workforce rotation. We see more people changing jobs than they have in the past. We see more jobs being published than they have in the past. A lot of companies are actually seeing a lot of growth and seeing the potential that they need better people and more people to join their team. So it's a lot of challenges in actually making sure that you can streamline that process, making sure that you can keep the existing talents actually staying at the company and work on the culture and working on the retention, while still simultaneously actually working on trying to attract new people, making sure that these people that you've attracted actually pick your company, and making sure that these people are up to speed really, really fast. And that puts a lot of pressure because the new candidates' expectations are also quite different to how they were just 2 years ago or even like 10 years ago. It's drastically different. So there's a huge variety of what's happening on the job market, which is really exciting.
No, definitely. I think that the world is ever changing, and now more than ever. And Johanna, how do you guys handle that?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also think that the new normal, we need to cater to both people wanting to work in office, but also people wanting to work remotely. So we need to offer an employee experience that cater to both in-office personnel, but also people working remotely. And with a decentralized workforce, there comes this challenge of how we keep everyone engaged and motivated and striving towards the same goal. So this new normal, like in combination with like the war of talent together with having an attractive employee experience, it's a lot of big challenges out there for employers today.
Yeah. And what are some key things that you think are valued to retain these best people that you have in your organization?
Yes, I think that this is like the golden question, and it's a complex one. I've tried to sort of broken it down to a few bullet points. I would say, number one, make employee engagement and satisfaction a company priority, not just an HR priority. So at GetAccept, we work with OKRs, which stands for Objective Key Results on a company level, and then it trickles down to the whole organization. And one of our like company priorities are employee experience and employee engagement. And I think that is really important in today's job markets, as we said before. I also think that we need to have a digital way of measuring engagement. So when we have a decentralized workforce, it's harder to get information how the organization is feeling and how everyone is feeling motivated and engaged. So we need digital software that can measure engagement and satisfaction. I know there are a lot of different alternatives out there. We use WinningTemp, that is a really great tool for us to collect like quantitative and qualitative data on how everyone is feeling. And we could can be able to act really quickly on that when motivation or engagement goes down. I would also say, I have a lot to say on this topic, so you have to sort of stop me.
That's okay.
I would also say focus on good leadership. So we all know that a good or a bad manager can make it or break it in terms of employee experience and engagement. So focus on having a clear goal in terms of leadership qualities that we want to foster, and maybe have like leader forums to keep a consistency when it comes to leaders that in turn can deliver employee experiences that are outstanding. I would also say, like two more points, show public appreciation when people deliver and supports behaviors that we want to foster across the organization. So have like a digital kudos functionality. I know you in HiBob have that, and we love that at GetAccept. So that is a way of like showing digital appreciation across the organization. And we do this at GetAccept also by aligning the kudos that we give to our core values. And that is also a way of boosting engagement and keeping our culture alive, which I think is important. Yeah. And then lastly, I would say, have a really great onboarding, because this is so important when it comes to setting people up for success, keeping them engaged, getting a good introduction. And we will talk more about this later on, but I definitely want to say like having a good onboarding is important when it comes to retaining great people.
Yeah, and I can't just I would say anything. Sorry, I can't just add to that. I think it's so important. Like now, especially with a distributed workforce, historically you've been able to get away with just having office parties or having these lounge chairs or the beanbag chairs at the office and just creating a work environment that is easy for people to hang out with, and you can get away with a lot of different things. Now you're forced to be a lot more proactive. You're forced to work on leadership training a lot more, and you're forced to make sure that the leadership team especially understands the value of the culture. Because if the people aren't satisfied and they're not happy with the company, they will either leave or not do a good enough job for maybe the potential growth where you're going. And speaking of one of the points where Johanna mentioned as well, it's like using the data to actually measure that. It's like you can't just like assume things are going well. And within the digital world we're living in right now, there's so many tools that will actually allow you to actually measure and work towards certain KPIs, certain goals, or certain OKRs. That this is the dream goal, this is the ambition, this is the North Star, that's what we want to achieve. And you can always check the pulse and check the temperature. Okay, how are we actually working towards these goals? So you need to be more structured, and you need to have more dedication on leadership, so actually the leadership can actually engage their employees. That's number one, especially if we're going to work in a more distributed world where you don't have the big fancy office where you can have a common ground for all employees.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say that is so important, and I see more and more companies actually doing that as well. They're going after all these new ways of working and new ways of onboarding and having those, well, as you said, Johanna, these kudos and these appreciations throughout the whole organizations. But maybe Fredrik, do you know, like, how can companies still differentiate themselves if everybody's doing it?
Yeah, I think this is something I've had so many discussions about, because I think a lot of companies are comparing themselves to like the Spotifys, the Facebooks, the Googles, the Amazons, or the big tech companies who have unlimited money to spend on certain things that they can give to their employees. They can get access to free lunches, everything, like the amount of perks and benefits you can get by you working at that company, like, or the salaries you can get are tremendous compared to what a small growth company can be able to afford. So what you really need to do in order to differentiate is humanize it and actually be transparent with everything. If you are a company that values culture, a certain type of culture, embrace that kind of culture. Do you want people that really thrive in that kind of culture? Like, for example, if you are a nerdy company, just as an example, like you have that nerdy culture where you should embrace that and make that your own, so you can actually attract those kind of people who look for nerdy culture. You can't be like you can't please everyone, so you actually need to differentiate to like stand out in a specific scenario. And to actually differentiate, you need to be transparent, and you need to let the people speak. I think the large, older, like employer branding campaigns where you spend millions on marketing and you push these out to large channels, I think that's not going to be as efficient as just people at the company actually loving it and leveraging transparency and human touch of people working there. I think that's what people are looking for. Because people spend so much time, people value their work-life balance to some extent, and people want to see what's in it for them. And if you can actually show them what's in it for them and what makes you guys unique, that's how you differentiate. And don't be afraid to go the full way, because in order to stand out in this competitive job market, when there's so many different jobs, there's so many different companies with kind of pay higher salaries, better perks, and whatever, you need to make sure like makes you unique. What is the culture? What is the offering? What is the journey? What can you give them to make sure that they are thriving at your company?
Yeah, definitely. And that ties in to that onboarding experience perfectly. I think that whenever you start at a company and you don't feel welcomed, you don't feel part of that culture straight away, you lose interest after a few months, and you're not that connected with the company. And with everybody working remotely, or some people working remotely, some are in the office, I think it's even harder to really feel that culture without having the right tools to feed that culture throughout your whole organization for all your new hires that you're constantly bringing on and constantly need to fight for to stick with you.
Yeah, and it's even more important in this scenario when you need to differentiate yourself and need to be unique. If you manage to attract people to actually want to join your company, they need to be able to have the same journey throughout the entire onboarding journey and throughout the entire like employee journey as well, not just the candidate journey. If you manage to attract certain people with your qualities that make you guys stand out, that needs to be like go through the entire process. If like they get attracted to something and then it just seems like it's a very different company when they join because they don't like even sense that kind of company culture, the sense that kind of vibe, then you failed, because you will see people, some succeeding, because some people succeed pretty much no matter what, but some people will be struggling, and that will be so costly both for the culture and for the company in general.
Definitely. You want to add anything, Johanna, or shall we go on to the next topic?
I can just add like really shortly what's something that we have worked a lot on when it comes to like recruiting remotely is to work much more with like visual content. So use video in like ads throughout the employee, talent acquisition process, and also pre-boarding, onboarding, because we need to visualize much more today than we've done before when people can come to the office and feel the vibe. So that I just wanted to add that, like, use more video content throughout the recruitment to make people get more a sense of how it is to work at a company.
Yeah, a picture says more than 1,000 words, and a video says more than 1,000 pictures.
That was a
That's a good one. That's actually perfect. Like when I started at Bob, I onboarded myself in the Bob platform as well, and we have this video there that actually takes you through the office and like introduce you to different people within Bob, which I think is so important to get that first day view of well, which company did I actually join into? Because often now your interview process is remote as well. You're sitting in front of your screen. You don't get that feel of the office and the culture before you join.
Yeah. But it's also important.
Definitely.
Just like put yourself in other people's perspective before we move on. Just a final note. Like if you're struggling to understand what we need to do, like think of like if you were to join this company now, what would you want? Like put yourself in the candidate's perspective or the new employee's perspective, or get to like go through the process yourself and just understand, okay, what's in it for me, because that will tell you a lot about it when you actually start trying to see it from the other perspective. But sorry, definitely. I interfered.
That's okay. It's it's an open discussion. So the next topic I wanted to discuss is around talent acquisition and the HR team alignment, and why it's so important for them to be aligned in that respect as well. So maybe Fredrik, you want to add something on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've been seeing a trend over the last couple of years that talent acquisition is separating from HR. Historically, talent acquisition has been entirely under the HR umbrella. But I think also like a smaller company can't always afford or can't always understand the full value of like why you should have separate teams. I think the vast majority of companies up until a certain scale, they typically tend to have one HR department that does everything. They're responsible for people and culture and responsible for talent acquisition. And at a certain point, even like either when you have to grow to a certain extent or when your company's large enough to manage, you typically want to separate them. So you can like have specific ownership and actually focus on specifically one thing 100% instead of doing shared ownership and doing everything to 50%. So I think we're seeing a trend that a lot more companies are separating because talent acquisition has changed so much. It's become more like a sales or a marketing role in a sense rather than a traditional HR role. Like because you're still working with people, you still want to attract people, you still want the funnel pretty much looks the same way. You need to reach them, you need to make them interested, you need to make sure they can get converted, and you need to do like the sales process or the recruiting process. So the modern talent acquisition role is more a sales or marketing role to some extent, while the HR role is more like managing the people and working on making sure that people stay and are happy at the company. And at a certain point, that's separated. Either when you need that growth, when you have hard talents to fill, because you need someone to work full time with it. But these roles are so intertwined. Even if you have one department or if you have two departments, it's easier to understand why they're intertwined when you have just one HR department doing everything, because you understand the culture, you understand the values. But when you have two separate talent acquisition department and one HR department, like they need to be so intertwined, because what you're doing in HR pretty much builds the foundation for talent acquisition to succeed. If you don't have happy employees, you don't have engaged employees, you don't have a great culture, that's going to make sure that's going to make it really difficult for talent acquisition. And the same way it goes around. If you recruit really great people and then your HR has been struggling to create this culture and create this onboarding process and everything that comes to it, it's going to create a divide. So these need to be as intertwined as possibly, because it's all about people. You need to make sure that the entire people experience, and not think about the candidate or the employee experience, the people experience needs to be superb throughout the process. And when you think about it as people experience, then you understand why these need to be intertwined. Johanna, anything you want to add?
That makes perfect sense.
No, I think you said it all the right things there. I definitely agree with you. And I also think like what we are telling, like when we market our job ads, it's so important that they are true. Like the things that we are telling the candidates also needs to be true throughout the whole employee lifecycle. So there needs to be this feedback loop between them for us to be able to attract the right people, but also deliver on the things that we promise throughout the recruitment process. But because it's, as you say, like it's more of a sales process today. So of course we want to highlight and say everything that we can offer, but it also is so important that we can live up to that afterwards as well.
Yeah.
So it's just really important that both work together as one team and take on that challenge as one team.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
It's all about the people. And if you can't make the people, like get new people, and if you can't keep new people, it's going to fail. That's why these are so important, so that they are aligned in every single angle.
Yeah,
all right.
I agree.
Let's move on to our onboarding. So for the scalable strategy that drives the hybrid workforce, I'm just really intrigued, like why is it important to have a robust onboarding strategy? And we've already talked a bit around that, but I'm just curious how you see that at GetAccept, John.
Yeah, so this is a very good question. I would say, like looking back at GetAccept, the beginning of GetAccept, how we welcome new employees has always been crucial. And I actually think that this is one of the keys to our success as a company, because it's during the onboarding where we build the foundation and create a sense of belonging, the feeling of inclusiveness, being a part of something, building a team spirit that actually then creates loyalty, passion, engagement, and in the end, retention. So I think it's here in the beginning where we set up for success, basically. So how we do it at GetAccept is that we actually have a structured company onboarding in the headquarters. So in Malmö, when it's not Corona times, basically we collect all new hires and dedicate one full week to just introducing new people to GetAccept. So basically during this week, they will get to understand what kind of company they are a part of. So they will get the story of GetAccept, how we started. They will meet the founders. They will understand the vision, the mission, the targets that we are working towards. They will get to know all the departments, the products, and then most importantly, I would say, understanding our culture. So what is the behaviors that we believe in? What is our people all about? And how can we sort of work together to succeed? And I think that is so really important when it comes to this social dynamics, because there's so much when it comes to socially like norms and behaviors and beliefs that we need to be able to understand, to really feel a part of something. And this is a golden opportunity to do that. And also, I would also like to say that this is also an opportunity to build relationships. Also, when you have maybe remote staff or decentralized workforce, we need to also establish relationships across borders. So across departments, across teams, because then we also build the sense of we are in this together, not just me and my team. So we together with all the other teams, all the other departments are working towards this same goal. And as a company, we will succeed together. So I would definitely say this is something that is done during the onboarding.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also, like, I agree with you, creating that feeling of belonging and just the importance of having that onboarding, which will drive into employees ramping faster, but also them staying longer with your company. And then to put it all together, it's really important to manage that onboarding process and to iterate that process as well and refine it as you grow as a company and change your culture as a company as well to make it accurate as you move.
Yeah, but the more defined the onboarding process you have, the more you can give everyone equal terms and make sure that everybody's successful. You need to think of it both from your own company perspective, but also from a candidate perspective when they're doing the onboarding, coming back from maternity leave or stuff like that. Like, it's important to give everybody both the same opportunity. Like, it shouldn't be different if you're working in the headquarters or the small office somewhere else. You should still be able to sense the same kind of culture, but also making sure that people have the opportunity to get up to speed fast, because like a lot of people feel a lot of pressure when they're new at their job, and if they can give the tools to actually feel a sense of belonging faster, give the tools for them to actually understand the product and the mission statement and actually feel that belonging to the company. But also from a company perspective, like, you want your employees to be up and running as soon as possible. So the onboarding process is almost as important or even more important rather than the actual talent acquisition process, like getting people. Because if you recruit 100 people and 90% of them leave, then you failed a lot, because like the people at your company are always more important. So you need to make sure that process is defined and structured, so you can actually spend more time on the people who need more help. Because if you give everybody the same toolkits, you might have someone who needs more help, who needs more extra attention. And streamlining that process and defining that process allows you to see where people need more help, so you can actually spend more time on the individuals instead of just forgetting someone.
Yeah, I think that's really important to have that plan there, and to have an E2E people first plan to ensure you have the it fits both your hybrid work and your remote work as well. How do you guys do that at GetAccept, Johanna?
Yeah, well, I think this is a really good question because from our side, I don't know if you have experienced this as well, but it was easier when it was like one or the other, like fully remote or fully in office.
Yeah.
So now there's a challenge of creating a people strategy that fits everyone, while we keep the consistency as we've spoken about before, like both cater to in-office employee experience, but also making that experience digital to include everyone, no matter if you're remote or if you're in office. So basically what we have sort of focused a little bit around, because I think what you miss, like looking at a remote employment, you miss the small interactions that build personal relationships. And those sort of moments happen when you're at the coffee machine or when you're out grabbing a lunch, or these sort of just interactions with each other that is not professional. It's not regarding a specific meeting. It's when you get to know people. So what we have done at GetAccept is to focus a lot on like informal meetings, digital. So we've done a lot of digital events to create a sense of belonging for all employees. So we need to sort of expand the employee experience to cover more than just in office. So just a couple of examples of what we've done. We've done like digital talent shows, digital afterworks, digital team challenges. We've done digital workouts, meditation sessions. We've had like digital coffees, just sort of to really plan digital interactions, because that's when we get to know each other on a personal level and when we feel connected, and even though we are not meeting in person. So that's a little bit of what we have done at GetAccept.
Yeah.
How have you tackled it?
No, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
No, I think that's such an important thing, like the personal side of things, not just the professional side of things. I had a scenario here a while ago with a new colleague that joined earlier this year, and like we use Slack internally, so we can communicate via most of our colleagues via Slack. And like me and this colleague, we both spend time at the office, and we got like started really appreciating each other as colleagues and started becoming close friends because we spend the time doing these like coffee machine breaks and sitting at lunch and eating lunch together. And then we realized 9 months in that we have never written a Slack message to each other, and that really makes you understand like how important these personal touches, that when you don't speak about work, you just speak about actually bonding, because that also creates like an atmosphere and a culture within the team as well. So it is so important, and you can't forget it, because that's pretty much what defines the culture. That's what makes people really want to stay and really want to be committed, and also go the extra mile for other people within the team and support other people when you actually have that connection with others.
Definitely.
No, I think that's so important to also meet your employees where they work already on a day-to-day basis, and get connected either via Slack or just being able to just ring someone and have that confidence. It's really important to have that face-to-face and be comfortable before you just start doing that. And when you have that culture there, I think you as a company, but also these teams and departments, they can grow so much faster when that level of trust is established between all your teammates.
Yeah.
And if we talk around, well, having that onboarding and talking around how we can develop maybe more plans around how to drive employee performance even further. Do you have any insights on that? Like how do you guys do that? Maybe Johanna, you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in relations to performance, just so I understood the question. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you how do you develop like scalable plans to drive your employee performance forward?
Yeah, so that is a good question. Like as I mentioned before, we have a company onboarding where we focus more on like culture, beliefs, relationships. But of course, we need in-position onboarding as well. And if we do have a scalable onboarding in terms of your own position, that will make it much more consistent. So no matter what team you start at or what position you're starting in, you will have a high quality onboarding if you have a scalable plan. And of course, this is done by using digital tools. Basically, we need digital tools to really make the consistency, or to make the onboarding consistent, no matter where you start. I think it comes down to, as we mentioned before, setting people up for success will make them succeed in much higher degree. And of course, people who get a good onboarding process will also be more motivated and perform better, of course. So I think it's about like ramping up people quickly and having a structured plan on how to do that, both when it comes to being a part of the company, but also understand what they are supposed to deliver in their position.
Yeah, definitely. And you want to tie in on that, Fredrik?
No, I think we've said so much about it, and I think like just understanding how important the onboarding process is for the company to succeed and for the employees to succeed, and especially in the world we're living in right now, where there's an abundance of jobs and people are always switching jobs on a more frequent basis, and the workforce has the workplace has shifted so much in the last 2 years, specifically due to the pandemic. I think it's so important that you give everyone the right tools and also have the opportunity as a company to scale, because that allows you to work more on things that will actually make a difference. Because if you have to sit individually with every single person, it doesn't scale, and that means you will not free up time for you to be able to do what's important for you to develop the company further and develop the culture and add more incentives and add other stuff to increase onboarding process in general. So the digital tools is an essential part of that, because that frees up the time for you to actually focus on humans.
Yeah, and I think that is so key to don't forget that we are talking around humans that join your company, and that it's exciting for them. It's also a bit scary. You're joining a new company. Who can I talk to? Who is a scary boss? Who is a nice boss? You take away all that stigma around your company and just be like, okay, we're all humans and we're all working together. We're all having a goal of our own, but we also have a shared goal of the company, and that's where we want to go. And I think that makes all these points we're talking about around having the ease of use and communication, not only via emails in a structured way, but also more informal via Slack or Teams, or maybe some kudos shout outs to acknowledge and reward your employees and make sure they feel seen by the company and feel seen by others in the company, that they're working towards that vision and mission of your company. I think that as soon as you feel you can make a difference in a company and you're actually contributing to the mission of the company, you feel right in that place, and you want to continue doing that. You want to have that another shout out. You want to have another recognition that says like, oh, you're doing a good job. Yeah, you're doing a good job. And then take that into your performance cycles as well and get maybe a raise for that. You feel seen and heard. And I think that's when you stay at a company, when you feel at ease at every level. You feel, you belong at that company.
Yeah. And I can just
if that's not the case, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There's a little bit of a lag. Yes. This is something we've also done at GetAccept, which I think has been a success factor, is also involve like the team members, especially when it comes to starting a company remotely. So basically, when you join a new company, in a physical world, or you're part of a team that is in office, often it's easy for you to navigate like who will I ask, or when will I ask. But if you join a company remotely, it can be really hard to know who should I ask for what information, who is busy, who is not busy. So we've also introduced like a buddy system. So the new hires get an assigned person from the team to ask questions with. And I think this is really good to make it quickly to ramp up and to make it easier that like the knowledge sharing in this hybrid setup. So that can also be something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And
absolutely.
I think that's so important, not only for the new hire, but also for the buddies to learn as well. And maybe if you assign buddies that want to become managers, they already can experience with how do you train people, how do you coach people in getting more familiar within the company as well. And I think that it's so keen to do that. Now, also when you have multinational companies and you have people all over the world that you don't know who to talk to and which time and when are they working, when are they free. We have a team in Israel which I cannot reach on Fridays, and they start working on Sundays. And just having the knowledge of not reaching out to them on Fridays just out of respect because that's their weekend. It's nice to have a buddy that can tell you like, oh yeah, don't reach out to them. And yeah, do that on Monday, just so you get accepted in the culture as well. I think it's really important indeed to have a system like that.
Yeah.
But it's
definitely
important from the buddy's perspective, like the person who becomes the buddy, like that kind of engagement that person also feels for the company. Like you can't underestimate how much that does. Giving people some ownership and actually giving them some accountability for that. Like it's so important for also them to be able to drive the culture forward and drive the company forward and actually like give people more opportunity to succeed and actually develop as individuals as well. So it's equally as important from both perspectives. which you can't forget.
Definitely.
Can't agree more. Shall we move on to the next topic?
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to add
Yes.
here? All right, let's do that.
A lot, but let's move on.
I think we can talk for hours, but we need to stick to the time as well. So the next thing I wanted to talk is more about the reporting, having the KPIs, and how are you measuring that you're doing a good job with everything that we talked about today. And that is more about like what are the data points or as indicators or these exact metrics that people can use to measure TA and onboarding around that. And I'll just shoot this one to you, Johanna, to kick off.
Yeah, I think like at GetAccept, we're very data-driven as a company. So of course, we love to measure stuff. For recruitment, I would say we measure time to hire. So that means like time when the applicants apply until sign. Because we see like there is we can't take too long. This is a success factor because the engagement and the motivation for the candidates is really high in the beginning, and we need to nurture the candidate throughout the whole funnel so that they hopefully sign in the end. So that's a parameter that we think is important. We also measure candidate NPS, so candidate net promoter score, which translates to how satisfied is the candidate with the experience, no matter if they got the job or not. And this is a really important parameter for me who works with recruitment. I want to deliver good experience for all employees, of course. So this is really a measurement on how good our recruitment process is. And then we also measure like people, like manager ratings. So the manager also get to measure, or how do you say, like give us a satisfaction rating, which also gives us a feedback loop in terms of how well this recruitment turned out. Then I would say later on, like in the employment life cycle, we measure onboarding satisfaction. So how satisfied are they with the onboarding to really deliver like the best onboarding possible, of course. And then later on, we also measure eNPS. So employee net promoter score, how happy they are with the employment. And then we also measure like retention. Of course, it's a really important parameter in terms of knowing if the people want to stay with us long term.
Yeah,
definitely. I think that is all part of having a holistic view and getting like a 360 view of getting input on day one or week one or after 30 days of their employment, after 90 days and after a year. Like, how engaged are they? And if you ask them the same questions on day one, week one, 30 days, 6 days, 90 days, how do the answers change? And report on that as well to drive your onboarding and keep improving as you go along.
Definitely. And I think that is interesting because what we see is like often you are as the most engaged or motivated in the beginning. You have this honeymoon phase. Everything is really, really great. But we also need to follow up. So it's important to not just have a good onboarding and then don't measure engagement. We also need to keep being very close to the whole organization and to keep on making sure that we have high engagement employees and high motivations.
Yeah, but you also need to start from like the opposite way around. So like you need to start looking at, okay, what are the is the desired outcome? What do we want to achieve? Because that will also make sure that you understand, okay, this is the end goal. This is the North Star. This is what we want to achieve in a year from now. Then you also need to start understanding, okay, what are the deciding factors for us to get there? So like GetAccept, like what they're measuring is so important because that's important for them when they look at what they want to achieve going forward. But if your company, every company is different. Every company is a unique organization and unique entity. So it's always good to start off like, what do we want to achieve, and then backtrack it. To actually understand. But of course, some of these metrics should be available in every organization, actually measuring how well your employees are doing, how well your candidates are doing, understanding that kind of stuff. And digital tools are great in that sense because they will tell you a lot of the data points. And they will tell you, they will help you get a lot of this data. They will actually check the pulse and actually see where you're going towards your overall goal. So if your overall goal is here, the data points and the KPIs will allow you to keep track that, okay, we're actually on the right path, but we need to pivot something in order to get to the right path. So if you don't know where to start where like the desired outcome, and then start backtracking what's important for us in order to achieve those KPIs. Because every organization is unique, but of course some of these ones should be available, at least in my opinion, for every organization. Every organization should know their EMPS. Every organization should know how well their employees are doing, for example.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I mean, if you what to tie into that, Fredrik, if you don't have a tool in place to give you those insights, then you're basically just driving blind. You do onboardings and people are leaving and you don't know what's happening. So you're sitting in a car, you're driving the car, but you cannot see out of any windows what you're doing and where you're going. But your car keeps going. And I think it's at some point you're going to drive into something if you do it like that. And so it's really important to have the right tools and the right capability, metrics and KPIs to drive the right direction as well. Because if you can see, if you have a tool, but you still don't have a goal, you're just driving around and going nowhere. So I fully agree with that. Yeah. And of course, I think it's really important to keep it flexible in that as well. So you can have a Northern Star and then after 2 months time, well, okay, my Northern Star just moved with kilometers and kilometers. We need to go somewhere else. As we say, it's a flexible process. We need to keep iterating, keep changing. The world is changing. We are in a point in time that we don't know what we're allowed to do in a month's time. It can just change like that. So we need to adjust like that as well and have the tools that allow us to change like that and change that quickly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I agree as well.
Anything you want to add as well, Johanna, on this topic?
No, I would just maybe like to add measuring, it's hard to measure your employer brand, but of course that is a really clear receipt on what do we deliver. If people are happy, they are most likely going to talk about it. And we can also say, okay, do we have people being curious about joining GetAccept? Do they know about us? Do they know anyone working with us before? So that's a really big feedback as well on looking at your employer brand. How are we perceived on the candidate markets, and are we successful in telling people why they should work with us, and does that come from our own employees? If we have a lot of own ambassadors internally, I think that makes us a very strong employer brand. So that is also a way of measuring or seeing if we are succeeding in delivering a high quality employee experience.
definitely.
Absolutely.
It's so important to have a good name and have all your employees shout that name from the rooftops as well. Like this is a great company. You want to work for this company, and you cannot just say that in your vacancy. Like, yeah, we are a great company. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. You need your employees to back that up and shout that from the rooftops as well.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Which is why it's so important to measure employee satisfaction, and why it's so important to measure how the employees are doing in the onboarding process, because that will be the foundation for a great employer brand. If you're great at marketing and great at telling a story, and that story doesn't add up, well, then you fail as well. And there's so many points where you can measure when it comes to KPIs, and there's so many things you can measure. And start off small. Start off with the most important things, so you know that you're on the right path, and the things that are most important to you regarding your Northern Star. And also seek inspiration. Like, there's so many great people out there who are measuring things in a different way. Ask people within your HR sphere, people you study with, people who are in other companies. Like, ask for feedback, because everybody will become better if we just share more, which is why these webinars are so great, because we can share some of our along for you to do that on an individual basis. Grab a lunch with the competitors, someone who works at a competitor, just see how they're doing. Like, I think they will probably be quite happy, because they want to be able to create the best possible work situation for everyone.
For sure.
Definitely.
Shall we move into the questions bit? We do have a bunch of questions in the Q&A section. Yeah, I think we have around 9 minutes left to just answer a few. Let me quickly see here in the chat, which one can we take? Let's take this one around. So this is the question: what have been the changes you have applied to people's strategy in the current and hybrid driving strategy? Maybe Johanna, do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. So a little bit of what we talked before, we have tried to expand, like looking at the employee experience to include more digital events. We worked a lot on how we can build community and belongingness through the digital space. And then I would also say, like, focus a lot more on video content. Also, like, from an internally perspective, we do a lot of internal send-outs, and we also include a lot of video, because it's much more engaging. It boosts motivation much more. So I would say, like, make it more visual. It should be easy for people to feel like they are a part of something, and video is a great tool for that. So I would say include more video in ads, in information, communication with the company. Do it more digital. Think broader than just in-office experiences.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think and also be creative with that, right? So have a creative video, and have a good brand in that video, not just the boring video that has a picture of your company outside, and just add some fun to it, and don't be shy.
Yeah. We have a little shout out to my colleague Stephanie. She's our culture lead, and just for example, she did this Easter greeting. She dressed up as a yellow, like, chicken bird, and she did a dance, and it was like, it's all about, like, having some fun with it also, to really make people smile, make people laugh, and that creates engagement, I think, like daring to be a little bit